Today we're doing cross-axis joints on an SN95 Mustang. Now let me start off by saying that Mustangs do have a reputation for
What are you doing, bro?
So, in order for you not to become another Mustang driver statistic, you should help improve the handling of your car by fixing stuff on it that's worn out, and if budget allows, upgrading some of those subpar OEM parts. Today for me, that's going to be the cross-axis joints. So, if you want to see how to do that job, watch this video. The tools you're going to need are a jack and a jack stand, a wheel chock such as a piece of wood to chock the front wheels, an impact gun or a pry bar, a hook, a ratchet and extensions, a 19, an 18 and an 8mm socket, a torque wrench, an 18 and a 15mm spanner, a pair of circlip pliers and a pair of needle nose pliers, a small and a large flathead screwdriver, a hammer, a light, penetrating fluid, some grease, vice grips, a marker, a small brush and sandpaper. Then you'll need this cross-axis joint removal tool and some safety gear. Now, these cross-axis joints are critical to keeping the rear wheels pointing in the right direction on any IRS Mustang. So if your rear wheels are going
Knock, knock.
then get these done so that your Mustang doesn't. So enough chit chat, this is how. So the first step is to get your wheel up in the air and support the car on jack stands. Now you can remove your wheel and then get a wheel chock or a block of wood to support the front wheels so that you can release the handbrake lever. With that done, we're good to get started here. We'll be removing the brake caliper, releasing the handbrake cable, then we'll undo the tie rod end, and finally we'll be able to access the cross-axis joints. So let's go. Let's get the handbrake cable off of the brake caliper. To help things along, give the end of the cable a good clean with a wire brush and then attach a pair of vice grips onto the end of the cable here. Then simply pull on the cable and release it from its bracket like so. Next, you'll want to take out the cable retaining clip found here and remove this 8mm bolt located on the bottom spring perch. With that bolt removed, you should have enough wriggle room to pull the handbrake cable free and out of the way. Okay, next we'll take the brake caliper off by undoing these two bolts using a 15mm spanner. Then take a hook and position it somewhere out of the way, slide your brake caliper off of the brake disc, hang it on your hook out of the way and take the brake disc off. Okay, now let's get the tie rod end off of the hub by undoing this taper joint. Take your needle nose pliers and remove the cotter pin from the castellated nut, then take an 18mm socket and loosen the nut. Spray the joint with some penetrating fluid and give it a few moments to let it do its job. Once you've let the fluid do its work, put the nut back on the tie rod end and give it a couple of whacks with a hammer. With the tie rod end loose, let's climb underneath the car and detach the half shaft from the diff. You don't need to take the shaft out completely, you just need to have it loose like this so that there is free play in the shaft. Okay, with that done, we can finally undo the two bolts holding the hub to the control arms. Before you do though, the top nut is adjustable and is used to set your wheel alignment, so make sure you give it a good clean first and mark its position with a marker. And with that all set, let's get the axis joints swapped out. So I'm going to start with the bottom one by removing the bolt. And with the bottom bolt out and the half shaft loose from the diff, I can maneuver the wheel hub upward off of the tie rod end and just rest it up here on the control arm. Okay, so here is my absolutely mangled bottom cross-axis joint. I'm going to give it a good clean with a small wire brush to get all of the brake dust and dirt off of it to give me a clean space to work with. On the rear side of the hub, you will find a circlip just here. You will remove this circlip in a second and push out this old access joint in this direction towards the front of the car. Okay, so take your circlip pliers and take the old circlip off. Make sure you have eye protection as this may go flying. So there is the old circlip removed, and now it's time to push this old ball joint out. Here is the tool you're going to need to do that. Okay, so here's the access joint remover tool, which comes as a kit with the access joints from fulltiltboogieracing.com. As you can see, these access joints are excellent aftermarket replacements, better than OEM actually, and you will need 2 access joints per side, top and bottom, and 4 in total to do both sides. The access joints arrive with the circlips attached to the joints, so take your eye protection and your pliers and start taking the circlips off. Now these clips have a tendency to twist as you try to remove them, so be careful when you do take them off that they don't bite into the alloy cylinder like mine has. In which case, just slightly sand over any raised edges and get them flat again, after which time it's time to put them on the car. Okay, back at the car, here is the press tool with some grease applied to the thread to stop it from seizing, and this is the orientation you'll want to use to press out the old ball joint. You'll want the large cup towards the front of the car and the smaller cup sitting on the joint like so. Then simply put the washers and the nut that came with the joint puller onto the thread and start turning. You will see that as I wind in, the small cup is pressing in towards the front of the car, pressing out the old ball joint. And there we go, just unwind the tool and the old ball joint should now be free. So now give the area a good scrub to make sure that the press will sit flush with the hub when you put the new ball joint on. And when you're happy, then a little bit of grease to help everything slide in nicely. Put the new access joint in place. So you will be feeding the access joint from the front and pushing it in towards the back of the car. This time you want the large cup to be at the rear, with the small cup pressing against the new access joint like so. With the washers and nuts attached, you're ready to start winding. So things will start off quite easily and will get harder as more of the new joint seats into the hub. But you can keep going until the new joint bottoms out against this lip here. And there you go, with the new joint pressed in and bottomed out, you can take the press tool off as you're done with it. And over here on the rear side, you will be able to see the recess where the new circlip has to go. So again, make sure you have your eye protection on as these clips can go flying, but go ahead and put the clip on using your circlip pliers. Okay, with that seated in place, the bottom access joint is in. Let's get the bottom nut in to give us some stability. And let's get started on the top access joint. This is very much the same process, simply undo the nut and pull the hub away, giving it a good clean to allow the press tool to sit evenly, and take the circlip out, making sure you have eye protection on. Then wind the tool on, the small cup goes to the rear of the car and wind out the old joint. A quick clean to make sure the tool will seat properly, then a little bit of grease to help everything slide in nicely, and offer up the new access joint from the front side and put the tool on with the small cup towards the front of the car this time. And with that in place, slowly wind the joint in. Remove the tool, put the new circlip on at the rear, making sure that the clip is seated evenly, and you're done. Top and bottom access joints replaced. Okay, finally, let's put all of this back together. Start by pushing the half shaft back into the diff. Then get the hub and the control arm aligned and put the top bolts back in. don't tighten it down just yet. We will go to the bottom bolt and remove it, so that we can feed the tie rod end in, and then tighten up the bottom nut and then the tie rod end, and don't forget to push the fresh cotter pin in. With that done, go ahead and line up the top hub using the mark you made earlier and tighten down the nut. Next, feed the handbrake cable back into place and slide the brake disc back on. Slide the brake caliper back on, reattach the two 15mm bolts and tighten them down. Finally, get the handbrake cable back into position and reattach the circlip. Clamp your vice grips back onto the end of the handbrake cable and slide the cable back into its position. Do one final check to make sure you have everything tightened back up, and if you're good to go, reattach the 8mm bolt holding the handbrake cable to the lower spring perch, and then you can put the wheel back on and lower the car.
There you go guys, easy enough and did not take very long at all. Give yourself a morning or an afternoon and you should have both sides done. The press tool from Full Tilt Boogie Racing made this job very easy, and the cross axis joints they sell are good quality parts, even an upgrade over stock. So give them a try if you like. I definitely would recommend them. Okay, if you like what you saw in this video, please give the video a like, and if you're new here, please subscribe and click the bell so that you can see when I post up something new. I'm going through the repairs that this Mustang needs for passing roadworthy inspection, and if you'd like to see any of the other jobs that I've already done on this car in my own garage, then feel free to check out the links in the description below. If I can do it here, you can do it at home. But that's enough chit chat from me. If you need your cross-axis joints replaced, I hope this video helps you out, so go ahead and try this on your car.